Are you a communist? This is an outdated query. It probably conjures a feeling that the answer is a McCarthyism, such as I like Ike. Outmoded as it is, as students, most of us are statistically more likely to want and or desire additional socialistic policy put in place. But the question remains, can a modern audience really hold to radical or otherwise revolutionary Marxist or communist ideals today? Seeing the pragmatic applications birthed by philosophy can afford a clear picture for those concerned with comparing great thinkers in politics, like the historical materialist who ignited communist revolution. The comparative gaze between the works of a medieval sophist, such as Machiavelli, to a modern materialist philosopher like Karl Marx may bring us closer to real historical synthesis. Let's assume we're all secretly asking ourselves, would I prefer either being a communist or a capitalist? If answering honestly follows along the lines of whichever policy surfaces me better, I would posit that's very Machiavellian of you to consider which prince makes it easier on you. So delving into Karl Marx's works and comparing his philosophy by two razors or methods may shine a more comparative light concerning Marxism or later communism. Now, Karl Marx is German-born from Trier, grew up in Western society, and sought to change Western society, influencing German politics, even helping establish a political party still occupying seats in German parliament today, while also later in life in Great Britain, with access to the British research sources, that's when he provided his final edit for his seminal piece. In true philosophy and scholarly fashion, Karl Marx knew the works of many of the philosophical greats and merely developed his own conclusions from his academic knowledge. One thing above all else must be understood about Karl Marx's philosophy and his body of work. His ideas were intended to be revolutionary with the aimed goal of eradicating the need for materialism in one's psyche, and not necessarily that you don't need materials. What does that mean? If you fundamentally believe you should have private ownership of things you earned, then you've already challenged the revolutionary spirit Marx hoped to actualize. Or, exemplia gratia, given the origins of public education in U.S. society, dying on the hill of free college does not change Marx's assessment of socialist communist ideals meant to deterministically reorder society as we know it, including education. For brevity, I have two quotes from the manifesto of the Communist Party to solidify that reality that any closeness in belief to communism is really in name only. The proletarians cannot become masters of the productive sources of society, except by abolishing their own previous mode of appropriation, and thereby also every other previous mode of appropriation. Their mission is to destroy all previous securities for and insurances of individual property. Quote 2. Communists are distinguished from the other working class parties by this only. 1. In the national struggles of the proletarians of the different countries, they point out and bring to the front the common interests of the entire proletariat, independent of all nationality. Comparative methods in political science have established a commonality between authoritarian regimes, the emergence of vanguard parties, and communism. In other words, communism has not been abused by capitalists seeking personal gain in a communal society. Rather, Marxism capitulates to authoritarian forms of government, creating communist regimes resulted by an in-crowd, which typically is considered the vanguard party. The difference between the in-crowd communist and the commoner communist can be found in the later previous quote provided in this presentation. In that quote, Marx makes a distinction between the Communist Party members and the disenfranchised laborers known as the proletariat. Let's pay the piper. If you're not into giving up your private property now, then there is no perfect communist or socialist world that will benefit you later. As history often does, we are shown what happens in the past. Machiavelli, we know, preferred monarchs with political cunning or virtue, meaning that he had no problem with princes with no divine right, but possessed the wherewithal to gain power and keep it. Marxism, though perhaps not intended to be a sole tool for dictators, yet with figures like Lenin, Mao, and Stalin under the umbrella of communism, Marx's philosophy truly succumbed to authoritarian regimes in a very Machiavellian way.